Okay, so we're going to go through our constraints assignments, and you can get that from Canvas by making a copy of 1.33 constraints, and I'm just going to go through step by step. So the first step is to go to Onshape, create a document with the proper name, and then step 2 is to create a concave polygon. So as you notice, a concave polygon is where one of the angle is dented in, and basically what that means is it's greater than 180 degree, like angle 8 and 9. So we're going to create this shape right here to the best of our ability, and it says avoid any automatic constraints by placing the line slightly off horizontal, and all that means is just a little bit at an angle. Okay, so I'm going to go 1 2 3 4 5 6, and so I'm going to pick the top plane. I'm going to hit sketch 1, and I'm going to grab my line tool. Okay, so you're going to see me do something here. So I'm just going to click from here to here, and then I think it goes to here, up to here, a little bit off horizontal. I think that's right. If not, I'll show you how to fix it here in a little bit. So then this part, and then this part. Okay, and then I'm actually going to do something a little bit different. I'm actually going to not do it all the way, and you'll see why here in a second. So these two lines right here aren't connected, so let's check to make sure it's somewhat the same. So okay, let's see. So I have 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8 9 10. So I have 10 lines here. Okay, so perfect. And then our next step says click on the constraint feature, which is found in Sketch. Hover out over each feature under constraint to see what they do. So if you actually hover over this feature right here, mine is like the coincidence. So if I zoom in, I believe if I zoom in, make this a little bit smaller. Yes, okay. So if you're on the screen like this, if you scroll down, you should be able to see what they all do. Okay. So I'm gonna zoom mine out, and then it's all up here as well. So the first thing I'm going to do is find my click the show constraints to see any automatic constraint generated for you. So I'm going to hit show constraints here. Okay, so here's the automatic constraints, and you can hover over them to see what they actually do as well. So, or click on them to see. This is, I believe, the coincident where two lines meet at one point. So we're going to check to see the coincidence. So if the coincident constraint is not at every point, first click on the coincident feature and then click on the 2 points that you want to meet. So this is where you can see these two lines are good, these are good, 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 good. And as you can see, these two lines do not meet. So I'm going to click my coincident, so it needs to be highlighted. I'm going to grab this point and this point, and then what's going to happen is they're going to meet, okay, and the coincident feature appears. So perfect. So the next thing I'm going to do is apply the perpendicular constraint to the following lines by first clicking the perpendicular constraint feature and then clicking on the two lines to make them perpendicular. So we're going to try to force a perpendicular constraint to line 1 and 2, 2 and 3, not 3 and 4. They're going to stay in angle, not 4 and 5. So we're going to do 5 and 6. 6 and 7, 9 and 10, and then 10 and 1. So perpendicular, all that means is it create a 90-degree angle between the two lines. It forces a 90 degree. So, and the reason we're doing that is if I were to grab a point and move it, as you can see, it's not doing what I want it to do. It's not, it moves one point. You can, get whatever shape you want to get. If I can make this shape looks more like the picture by just moving in the points, but it's not what I intended to do. Okay, I want it to be when I move one point, something else would move along with it. So I'm going to force a perpendicular constraint on the lines so that it helps me when I move it. It moves how I want it to move. Okay, my intent. So I'm going to grab the perpendicular constraint. Let me try to show constraint again. And I'm going to force it between line 1 and 2, okay? So as you can see, now it's going to be perpendicular. If you highlight in the perpendicular, it says these two lines are perpendicular. And then line, I believe 2 and 3 needs to be perpendicular. And then as you can see, these two lines are perpendicular. These two lines needs to be perpendicular. Okay. And then as you can see, those two lines are perpendicular. And then I want to make this line perpendicular to this line as well. Okay. So I have these two lines are perpendicular. Okay. And then next, these two lines are perpendicular. Okay. And then these two lines are perpendicular. Let's see. Okay. So then now I'm going to let you see what the kind of like what the geometry looked like. So as you can see, it's kind of stuck in one spot. Same with this, right? If I grab that, it doesn't move as freely. So I'm intended for it to move in the way that I want it to move. Okay, so we have this shape right here. All right, so the next constraint that we're going to do is going to be the parallel constraint. So in order to do the parallel constraint, parallel means the same slope. Two lines that never meet and contain the same slope. So we're going to force a parallel constraint with the following lines. So line 7, okay, so we have to click line 7 first. So I'm going to pick parallel. Okay, line 7 with line 5. So we're going to see 7 and 5. So these two right here needs to be parallel. So 7 and 5 need to actually remain parallel. And if I don't see the constraint, I'll just grab it again. So line 7 and 5 needs to be parallel with each other. And then if you hover over the parallel, these two are parallel. And it turns out you can actually do that because two lines that are perpendicular to the same line are also parallel to each other. So, you know, that's a good thing. And then line 9 and 3, so 9 and 3, we want these to be parallel, so always having the same slope. So line 9 and line 3, okay. And then as you can see, something crazy happens, and that's okay. So if that were to happen, all you have to do is grab your point and then move them back to where they're supposed to be, okay. So here's this, here's that. And then here's that. And why that happens is because it's not constraint yet in a way that you can actually, you know, work with it. So we're going to actually have to kind of change it around. So let me make sure that is right. Okay. So these two should be parallel. Okay, so let me delete that constraint real quick. Okay. Okay. And then that one is, okay, 1 second. Okay, so I actually had to delete a couple of my constraints. So as you can see right here, it's sort of like it's a little bit messed up, but that's okay. We're going to actually grab this parallel constraint again. And we're going to make this, actually I'm going to not highlight this part right here. I'm going to make the bottom line, line 1 right here, parallel to the one on top. And that should fix it. So this is the bottom and the one on the top. Okay, so that's looking a lot better. And then these two are parallel. And let's see what else. Should be, yep, and then I should be able to move it. Let's see, yep, okay, so that's good. So it's starting to get the shape that I want. Okay, and it's looking good, but it's still not doing what I want it to do. So let me see what I have. Okay, so parallel, let's try this parallel again and see what happens. So this parallel to this. Okay. Yep, so that should be the same line. Okay, with this, well, the same slope. Okay, and then these two should have been parallel to each other. I believe I deleted that. There we go. So those two are parallel. So first I actually changed it to the line 1 and the line on the bottom, the line on top are parallel to each other. And I changed that right here. Line 1 and 6 is parallel to each other. So we did that first. All right, so now we're going to do the equal constraint. Apply the equal constraint to the following lines by first clicking on the equal. So do not confuse equal with parallel. Equal means the same length. So we want the same length from basically from the left to the right. So 2 and 10 are the same. 3 and 9 are the same. 4 and 8 will always stay the same. And then 5 and 7 will stay the same. So we're going to go to my equal. And then I'm going to make, oops. Why is this line going? Okay, we're going to click on this line. It's the same as this line. Okay. And the little equal sign should pop up right here. Yep. So if you highlight over it, it tells you if those are equal. Okay, we want this line to be equal to this line. So it does matter if you go first or second. So if I want this line to be the same as this line, so I click on that, and it makes this line the same as the first line. And then I want this line to be the same as this line. And as you can see, it changes, okay? So now I'm going to move it to see if it's doing what I want it to do. And it is. So it's moving in the direction or in the way that I intended to move, where it's symmetric on one side. And whatever I do on one side will happen to the other side, okay? So that was my intention the entire time. So that's the whole point with doing constraints. All right, so then the next thing I want to do is I'm going to try and make it look like the shape right here by just moving around the points. So I believe this goes in more, just so you guys are able to see it. And then I believe this goes out. You can move whatever you move on one side will also move on the other side as well. Okay, and then I'm actually going to avoid this constraint. Let's see, by deleting that because that's black. I don't need it to be that right now, so I'm going to move it in. So if you ever see a black line right here, okay, now it's stuck on here. I need to get it so it's not stuck on here anymore. It's okay. Yeah, it's stuck on there. Let's see. So this line is stuck. Okay, so this line I was saying is stuck on the axis, so to unstuck it, I actually click on this dot, and then there's a perpendicular or a vertical constraint on here. I'm actually going to delete that by highlighting and deleting it, and it should let me move in. Oh, and it's on this side as well. Let's see. So all these are automatic constraints, and you can kind of play around with it as well. Oh, nope, that didn't work. Let's try that again. Let's see, here, where is it at? Oh, here, there we go. Let's try to delete that one. Okay, would that let me move it? No, okay. Okay, so like I said, I was able to move it out of that by just going through each of these lines and seeing where the vertical was, and then deleting that, just deleting it so that it's not stuck to the y-axis. Okay, so here's what it looks like right now, which is really similar to the shape. And now we're going to move on to creating a midpoint with a construction line. So it says now you constrain the center of your sketch to the origin as shown in the figure. What you can do is sketch a point in the middle of line 1. So we're going to do a midpoint. So I'm going to go up here and grab my midpoint, and it should generate a little square box that shows this is the midpoint. So if you go here, it doesn't show it, but then if you go here, it shows that this is the midpoint. So the midpoint is on this line. So what I'm going to do now is, I'm going to say show constraint. I'm going to draw a construction line all the way up. Okay, so to do construction line, you hit construction and a line. And then we're going to go from here all the way up. Let's see. And it's not going to connect to the line. It's actually going to go past the line up top, and you'll see why here in a second. Okay, so let's see where we're at. Oops, top. Okay. So now we're going to move this point so that it coincides with this point, the origin. So I'm going to highlight both of those points right here, and then I'm going to use my coincident, and it should move it in there. And that's okay if it's not the shape that you want, and you should be able to grab the point and then move it so it is the shape that you want, but avoid trying to lock it into the middle, or it's not going to work. Okay, so that is what I have so far. I'm actually going to move it out, and then it is doing exactly what I want it to do. Okay, so everything is pretty much free to move back and forth. Okay, so the next thing I'm going to do is step 9. It says draw a circle on the sketch as shown below with the following constraints. So the following constraint is you have a vertical line through the intersection of 3 and 4. Here's my vertical line. And you're going to draw a horizontal line through the midpoint of line 2. Okay, and then you're going to draw a circle on the vertical line through the midpoint of line 2. And then you're going to enforce a tangent constraint on the circle with the horizontal line. So drawing a vertical line through the intersection 3 and 4. So let's do that first. So here's line 3 and 4. So I'm going to draw a construction line through 3 and 4. So I'm just going to make sure it goes straight down. And then hit escape to get out of that. And I need a midpoint on this line. And I'm going to draw a construction line through that point. So I'm going to have it so it intersects that line. Okay, and then hit escape. And then what I'm going to do now is I'm going to draw a circle on the vertical line that I just generated. So I'm going to go to circle and then draw it on this line. Okay, and then the last thing is I'm going to force a tangent constraint. So I want this line to always be attached to, I want this circle to always be attached to this line. So I'm going to go to tangent, grab the circle, grab this line, and I'm going to snap it together. So it will forever be attached to this. So as you can see, you have, this, and it can move, right? But it will always stay on this line. Okay, so that is, it's free to move, but only on this line. So the constraint is that it will stay on this line. All right, so the next thing we're going to actually do is we're going to use the mirror function. So in the mirror function, we're going to grab the mirror first, and then we're going to select the construction line through line 1. So that construction line we created, and select the circle to mirror on the other side. So this is a mirror up here. I'm going to grab the mirror line, which is that construction line in the middle, and then I'm going to grab the circle to mirror to the other side. Okay, and then after I am finished with that, I want to see how it moves. So I can grab my circle again. As you see, whatever you do on one side, the other side would do the same. So this is type of constraints that you have. All right, perfect. So now the next thing that we're going to do is dimensioning. So this will be the dimensioning constraint. So you want to make sure that you dimension all of these properly. So the top is 1.5. How you know that everything's been dimensioned is it has to go from blue. Everything is in blue, meaning it's not dimensioned, to black. Okay, so to dimension, you're going to use the dimension tool, and you can grab this, and let's say you want to change this to, oops, let me zoom back out, down. Okay, so I want to dimension this line from here to here. So let's say I grab this and say, hey, I want the left and the right to be 1.5. So just click that 1.5. Okay, so I want you to make sure that you go through and dimension everything as is on the picture, and everything needs to go to black if you've dimensioned it all. If it does not go to black, it means you have not applied the dimensional constraint. Step 12 says extrude the sketch to 0.25 of an inch, so it should look like this. And then step 13 says to create a drawing of the object and then dimension it accordingly. And then step 14 says answer the following conclusion questions, and then you'll be turning this assignment in. Okay, so at the end of your assignment, you should have a drawing that looks like this. And if I go into sketch, I should be able to find all of your constraints. Okay, everything needs to be dimensioned accordingly, and there should only be one extrude, and then you should have a drawing of your a drawing of your constraints of what the activity that you just did. Okay, so all of this stuff right here.